tonight again we'll be running through, and believe you me, we've come to a very good point where we'll be drawing the curtain for Excel. And by the grace of God, and while with further consultation with the doctor and the team, the faculty, possibly will be moving over to SQL from next week. So, and we will try and actually reinforce what we've learned in Excel today. And in the time before us, we'll be doing some run through. And if there's anything you've gotten thus far, please make sure you call my attention to it so that I can always go around it and help you with it. So this is that a very good data. I'm taking this out, and so okay. So now you look at this data and you want to say what exactly is it in need for me. I mean, don't pick same data and draw another perspective from it. I saw questions where someone is saying, what are the basis for your for the performance? What are you mentioning the performance against? Is it the number of tasks closed? Is it something? I mean, what is the metric? So she could choose a metric, and another person could choose another metric, and someone could combine the metrics. You could be using a multifactorial method to it. So, but the fact is, you must first establish what am I to do with this data, and this is how they come. They come in this form, and lot of columns which are regarded as the features, and a lot of rows because they are generated over time. And if I could still recall, this data has about 3 years, the 2014 to 2017. Yeah, so it has 4 years data in it, and we have to make do with it. So imagine if it were to be more than this, and what do I mean more than this? 9,995 or 94 is not a joke. So you want to first look at it and say, what do I want to do? So you possibly might want to segment it, and you say, okay, I look at this, I look at this, I look at this. So you look at them, and there was a question about um, base. There's a question about base, looking at the base. Okay, so there are times that you want to look at data and you have to rebase them so that they will be comparable to each other. So but even before getting into the space of rebasing them, for them to be able to compare with each other, you also want to see, what do I want to get out of this that I'm into? So if you want to analyze that, how well are people patronizing us with this data? And this is the method I've chosen to teach everything that has been taught from the beginning of this class. A method whereby we engage with a problem and we find a way to solve it. So I said, okay, first, we are seeing two dates, ship date and the order date and the ship date. That is, somebody had placed order on a day and it got shipped to the person on another day. Let's assume that the ship date is the date of arrival as well. That is, the ship date is when the person who ordered the product had the ship, received the shipment. So that means we want to look at what time did it take us, and we're thinking about, as the business now. So you're not thinking about this data as something that was downloaded online. Okay, what is the first thing that comes to mind? The lead time. You just want to check difference, basic difference, and which is just like 1 minus 2. A minus b rather. 2 minus 1. You just want to check difference. It is as simple as that, but this data will be staring at somebody, and we have two dates and we just colonize them as dates. But you can actually get another feed from it, which is the lead time. Okay, and we said, okay, the date it was shipped minus the date it was what's it called? It was ordered. So now we have a problem. I don't explain something that once you insert a column, so the column takes the feature of the column to its left. That is, if I insert a column between D and E, be sure that the feature or the format of the column that will be inserted between D and E, that is the new E, like I just inserted, will be the format of whatsoever is in D. So, and that's why when I did my subtraction and then it gives me in date, because date is the format of column D. Now, because I inserted a column after D, then it automatically takes the format of D. So now I can actually apply this across. It will just give me dates, and this is not what I want. But don't be puzzled when you get a result like this, especially when you have done the right thing. So what you should do is actually to change the format, um, to format the column or the cell that is being affected. And if you look up here, you will see that it is date that it is being referenced at. I don't need it as date. You can just make it general. So that's what we want. We just want to have it in the general form. So the format we want is general, and we want to call it lead time. So lead time here means, okay, the time it took us to process the order and deliver it to the shopper. So now we have that. So you can do a lot with this. You can do a lot with this that we already have here. So you might want to start checking, okay, is this actually affecting our sales? Is this affecting our sales in this region? Or do we, what's it called? Do we take longer time to to deliver in a certain region, because we have the lead time here, so you can actually filter and um, then look at it across region. Okay, so let us just do the largest to smallest. So we know we have 7 and we have a lot of it. So let's see which region has the most of these. We might want to investigate that. Which region has the most of 7? Which region has the most of? So this could actually go into, we can just quickly do what's it called, a pivot chart, and then we'll come out with maybe a column chart, and then we check, we have those what 7, we have the 6, we have the 4, the 5, and I think the largest day is 7. So we possibly want to see how can we optimize our supply chain, so that in these places where we are taking up to 7 days, what is responsible for it. So we want to drill down into this, and and with this, we could have some drivers or some delivery man who possibly are just lazing out, they don't get things, or we have a sorting center that is not optimal enough. We want to get into the bottom of it. And by the time we get into the bottom of it, I will say that the earliest we can do is 7. Then we might make a standard. We might put a standard out there for our shoppers and say, if you're ordering in this region, 7-day delivery time, because we know that we have actually optimized our supply chain, and the earliest we get things over there is 7 days, and they will take us for our words. So if they need it next week, they order it this week because they know for sure we'll get it across to them. This is how data helps the business, and this is just done by subtraction. As simple as equals to d6 minus d6 is, it gives us a lot of things that we could actually draw. You now see that it is not in the abundance of the two, but it is in how well you understand your data and how you can use just subtraction, just finding a difference to actually make a very good impact in the business. And so we did a lot of things about populating data, which I will do shortly. Okay, today everybody on this class should not have issue with VLOOKUP. And I tell you, about 7 out of 10 people that I've met in the workplace, and this is not to shame them, about 7 out of 10 people I've met in the workplace don't know how to execute VLOOKUP. Because like I said, after this class, we should have a briefing, and then next week we should move on to SQL. All right. So, like I said, well, I always tell people, take it very simple, right? Take it very simple. And the way to actually take it very simple, and I'm doing this now for the sake of this class again. now, because there won't be any reason and we possibly won't have achieved a lot. Okay, let me ask again, just before I demonstrate this. What about the pivot table that we created? The last class, that is 2 weeks ago, we did about seven what's it called, pivot table. We created about 7 pivot table because we then created a pivot chart on each of them. What about creating pivot table and manipulating data in pivot table? How about that? Do you have very good understanding of that? Okay, good. So I mean that's settled. Okay, what about those conditional summings? Like, okay, you are doing sum if, because you want to sum a particular column and you are given a condition that, okay, please sum this if this criteria is met. What about those ones, those conditional summing, the conditional averaging? What about those ones? Okay, okay, all right. It is by the time you continue using them, that's when um, you gain mastery. There are things that if you don't use, they become rusty and um, they just fall through, and you possibly won't be able to get them again. You have to relearn. All right, good. So now I'll demonstrate VLOOKUP, which seems to be very good for us to demonstrate. Now, okay, and I'll use this particular column, other ID. Okay, so let me bring other ID here, and then okay, so demonstrate. So now we want to populate. So the sum, you remember that the order ID, like this one, these two, they are the same. That is, they were the two items were ordered at the same time, and then they are contained in the same card, so they have the same order number, they have the same um, some basic details that are same, but one of those unique identifier that are same for them is the order number. So now we want to see the two products. I mean the product that are against this order number. Now, okay, so yeah, let me use that to explain. Let me say the product name, and what I want to explain is how VLOOKUP works. So product name. So I want to explain how VLOOKUP works so that you know when to apply it and when not to. So now, VLOOKUP, it's vertical lookup. It looks from top to bottom. So, and whenever the condition is met, it returns the answer for that. And it doesn't just hold that and then continue. No. By the time you're applying it to another row, it goes back to the top, do the same thing and return the first time the criteria is met. So and now is VLOOKUP implemented. So let's assume we want to use VLOOKUP to populate the product name for this. Before I do it, let me tell you that um, like this that has two items in it, be sure that the two items will not be returned. So the one that will return is the first, and it will return twice. And I'll show you so that we'll see the difference when they come. So let me go copy the item name. Yeah. All right. So I copy the item name so that we can have that in place. So this is the item name that we should have. Like I said, these two could have the same order ID, but they have uh, what's it called, different item product name. So now, but if I am to use VLOOKUP to get the product name, so say I want to use VLOOKUP to get the product name, so I'll say equals VLOOKUP. Okay, so VLOOKUP. So look at what VLOOKUP is looking for. The first thing is the lookup value, the table array, the column index number, and range lookup. So the first thing is to provide the lookup value. So the lookup value is simply explained as what do you have, the reference. So what is the reference that you want to use to look for something? Take your mind to a shelf or a library. If you want to look for a book in the library, you have to know possibly maybe the title of the book, maybe the volume number of the book, maybe the publisher of the book. So if you don't have anything to look to search out the book, remember our use of library in the university. So you need a catalog. I mean, in the catalog you have some things and some catalog item, the identifier to actually search out the book from the shelf. So you need something. So apply the same thing to this. Okay, if you want to go into your wardrobe, you want to pick a cloth in your wardrobe. So you possibly have settled it in your mind that I am going for a party. And because I'm going for a party, I need Ankara, I need a lace, I need Agbada. So that Agbada is a reference when you're going into your wardrobe. And then by the time you get into your wardrobe, you are searching only for Agbada in your wardrobe. So by the time you are searching for Agbada, then all the Agbada will come out and the specific Agbada, no, this today is a white Agbada, then you go in and you get out your white Agbada. So I'm using all of those things that we can relate with to explain this to say the lookup value is what do you have, because you cannot use VLOOKUP if you don't have a reference. If you don't have something that is unique, um, that you have. In this sense, we have this other ID. So you must have something before you apply VLOOKUP. You can't just apply it in there. So, and if you don't have it in an exact match, so you need that lookup value. So that's the reference you have that you want to use. Because since we know the other ID, we can then search for anything we want. So, and the confidence we have is that the same format in which this other idea appear here, it is also on our raw data that way. So with that, we are good to go. Okay. So now that is our lookup value. Our lookup value also could be a text, right? It could be anything. But like I always mention, I always teach that use unique identifiers for your lookup. And in the case where you don't have unique identifier like IDs, IDs are unique identifier because it possibly won't apply to two persons. So it will just apply to one and then you're good. Because if you use name, I'm not the only John Lawal. So on LinkedIn, there are several John Lawal. In Google, there are several John Lawal. So but I possibly have my university matric number, which nobody shares with me. So if you search me out with my matric number in the university, and that's one of the reasons you're given matric number in the university. It is just a unique identifier for you, so that if we're searching you out, if we're searching you out, we will be able to be sure that we're getting the right person. All right. I don't want to give you my matric number now, so that all right, that's just a joke. So now we have the lookup value, and then we separate with a comma. So it's asking us for the table array. So the table array, so it's now the dynamics now. So where is what you're looking for? Where is it contained in? Like I use the what's it called? The actual party as an example the other time. So you are getting ready for a party, except if you have everything all around in your house. I know if I'm going for a party, where I should head is my wardrobe. So I won't be looking for the clothes that I'll wear to a party, and I'll be looking for my clothes on my bookshelf. I possibly don't keep clothes on my bookshelf. So I'll rather go to my wardrobe to pull up um, the cloth that I need. So so the table array is more like where is this thing that you are looking for? Where is it contained? So, and it is expected that it will be contained over at least a table of two columns. That is, your reference will be in one column and what you are looking for will be in another column. So a minimum of two column table, and that's why he's saying that the table array, because it is not just one single column table, it should be a minimum of two columns. That is one of the column containing your lookup value and the other containing what you want to actually look up. So now the table array The way we select the table array is this now. So I'm coming over to this, our unique identifier is there. And I also explained the last time that make sure that your lookup value on the table where you are looking up is to the right, I mean to the left of what you are looking for. So now our order is perfect here because order ID is to the left of product name. So we can just select from this column name, so that B column. So you will see that we now have a black arrow that is pointing downward. So we select and we drag all the way so to where we have our product name, that which is what we're looking for. But you have to pay attention to something, which is what you will be asked next. So this is where we get our column index number from. So this is where we get our column index number from. This is one of the things that makes people not to be able to implement VLOOKUP. So the column index number. So it is when you are selecting your table array, that is when your column index number comes out. Okay, that is where you can pick up your column index number. So if you look here, there is a number here. Can you see the number just below column M? So if you are looking for where column M is on my screen, it should be the first column on display at the moment. So column M, you could see postal code, and below postal code, you will see a number. Now I'm moving away now. Okay, let me just move back and make column M there. Okay, so you see column M at the top, postal code, and then you could see a number that 1,048,576 R, that is 1048576 R, X, that is by uh 12C. That's what you can see at the moment, right? 12C. So what this is saying is that this selection is over 1,048,576 rows, and it is across 12 columns. So because I've selected to M, but my product name is on R. So if I continue my selection to R, you see that that 12 has increased to 17. So be concerned about the number that comes before C. Forget about what comes before R. So our column index number is the number that comes before the C in this particular number. Please, somebody unmute and tell me you can see the number I am referring to. Perfect, perfect. So, all right. So because we have selected all the way to column name, so we have 17C. So don't bother yourself about the C, but what the question, that is what comes before C, is what we are bothered about. So, and that is the 17. And trust me, that is your column index number, and that's the next thing you have to provide. So separate this with the comma I haven't selected. And remember, the next thing we have to provide is the column index number. Remember, we already got our column index number at 17. Just put the 17 here and say comma. Okay, now we have a question to answer. Do we want approximate match or we want an exact match? So if we select true here, it is an approximate match. If we select false, it is an exact match. So now we want an exact match because we're sure that our order ID is match for match. That is, the order ID in the sheet where we're working from is match to match for the order ID in the raw data. So we're saying we need exact match, okay? And that is what we look for. So, and this true false has a code. So it is 0, 1. So 1 representing true and 0 representing false. So I don't like typing false or selecting false. All right. So I rather, instead of selecting false, I rather just say 0 because I know 0 as well represents false and 1 represents true. So I'll just click enter. So with this, you could see that I have gotten the name. So you see that this is the same name that is here that we have here. But something will happen now. You will be expecting to get Eldon food, but that's, check it out, will not happen. All right, Eldon food will not happen. So you'll be wondering why didn't it happen? So now learn why it will not happen again in this place. So remember, few these two has the same order ID, and these two also have the same order ID. So pay attention to the ones that have order ID. Um, so let's quickly pay some attention to them. All right, these two also have the same order ID, so I could change this to this and to this. All right. So now see. So instead of me to get Eldon, that is the second product name, I got the same thing as I got in the first one. But you could see that this is correct because it reflects ones. It doesn't have another one. But this same thing happened here. So I got this name repeated twice. This also the Hunt Powerhouse electric pencil sharpener. I got it repeated this 2 times. If I just say this, this. So if I change all of this to this, you will see it will just be like that across. Why? Because the condition has been met, and once the condition is met, it will return the first. So in the order for this particular order ID, Brentford is the first thing that it sees, and that is what it will continue to what's it called, reflect. And that is it about VLOOKUP. Okay, that is it about VLOOKUP. So VLOOKUP gets you the first thing that comes first in the order, and that's why um, we implement VLOOKUP, especially when we want to get a unique value. So we know that what we are looking for has no repetition. Okay, what we're looking for has no repetition. So what we can use VLOOKUP to get very easily, and that will be very accurate, and we don't have to worry about it, is something like the customer name from this particular sheet. So because we know that the customer that has the same order will have the same name. All right, so let me pick customer name. All right, so let me pick customer name and drop here and say let's get customer name with this. So we cannot go wrong with this, and I can be sure with that. All right. So and you could see even with what I copied, you will see for each of the order that has the same order ID, the customer name is the same, and the same thing for this, the same thing for this, the same thing for this. So if we apply VLOOKUP to fetch the name of this, let's assume we don't have this and we just want to use VLOOKUP to fetch it, and we say VLOOKUP this our lookup value, and then our table array, selecting from the column B all the way to customer name, which is column L, and we look out for our column index, which is 11 now. So we say comma 11 and comma 0 because we want the exact match, and we say okay, and we just apply it across board. You see that we have the same thing. One way to check, okay, let me give you this very short way to check, especially when you're populating things and want to check if there are no differences. So two ways you can just do this minus this. You say I love subtracting a lot. Okay, um, because it's saying not a value. So, but you can use the other way. I mean, this is because it's not a value. So you can use this way. So let's assume they are values now. I mean, they are numbers. These are values as well. So let's assume these are numbers. So that subtraction will work because everything will just give you 0. I mean, or the yes, it should be 0 if both cells are the same. But you can also use this boolean way where it will return a boolean for you. So you say this equals this and you say true. So if you have any false, then you know that something is wrong in here. So you can just check out to say, do I have any false in my filter? Yeah, no, all is true. So we are okay. That means the same thing we got here is the same thing we have here. And that's how to implement VLOOKUP. I hope I've made a lot of sense. And if you want to do the same, so and for people who I saw your hand raised, okay, the hand is down. I think maybe the hand wants to tell me that they couldn't hear me. All right, thank you. Okay, so just stay on the line. So I will just do this and then this. So you could see the first one is now false. So we're just trying to check, oh, are these two the same? So it is just a way to check if they are the same. So you just say equals to, is this equals this? Is what's it called, b2 equals c2. So and it will return false for you if they are not the same. But if they are the same as the case was, so it will return a true for you. All right, it's just a check. So you could be
Okay,
working on
thank
something
you.
and you want to just verify two columns, and you just, because I mean, how do you verify two columns, especially when they are numbers? It can be very funny sometimes, but by the time you apply, is this, if their number, it is easier. You can do it in two ways. Say for instance, let me bring a number into this place and just demonstrate it with a number. All right, so without doing anything, I'll just say this. Oh, just lost that. All right, copy this and paste it here, and then do the same thing here. So now, okay, so I can achieve these two ways. I can say this minus this. So I should have only zeros as my answer if both are the same. All right, so I can check, I can use my filter to check instead of looking all through. So I can just do my filter and say, and check what is there. So I should have only zeros. So I have just zeros here. All right. So also I can use the same thing I did the other time. I say, is this equals to this? And say true. So both are the same. So if there's anything, so I can also check here to see if I have any other thing. So even if one is different, so I will have a false, and by the time I check here, I will have true and false here. So I will know that there are some false in it and there are some true in it. So I want to check the false. Why is there difference? Because possibly I want to populate the same thing in the two column, or I'm just trying to verify something. So I just check, oh, okay, this is where the false is coming from, and I'll copy this and I'll paste it here. Or the other way around, let's assume I want 23 here. So and I'll just do that. So and by the time I do that, so I have to, and I can just cancel my filter and then have that. All right, so that's just by the way to check some of the things to do. So these are some of the things you must know. They are very simple. I mean, equal to, you don't have to write any formula. It's just you playing around with equal to, but because you know what it does and what it can give you. So and that's it. So now very quickly, okay, so we talked also about um, those VLOOKUP. No, we've discussed VLOOKUP now, and those sums. So now we want to remove all the duplicates. Remember, we showed how to remove duplicates. We come up to the data tab, and we come here. This is the icon for remove duplicate, and we click remove duplicate, and we say okay, and those duplicates are removed. Okay, good. Now, so we want to now say, we don't just want to come on this sheet and be filtering by say order ID and then be getting the sum of sales. So we want to get the sum of sales on this sheet, and that's why we remove the duplicate, because we, if we want to get the sales, we could just populate the sales for each of them and then we won't have sum of sales. So your boss just asks you, John, get me the sum of sales for all the order in May or in June 2024. So instead of you, and I line out over this, a friend actually reached out and wanted to do something like this and was unable to actually achieve it. And this is somebody who is doing well in his career. So these are not simple things. Please pay attention. There are things you might need and you possibly will need. All right. So some if goes for it. So if you have duplicated lines but not duplicate, I mean, you have lines that have a common reference and they have a lot of sales against them, and you want to sum them together using the reference that is common to them, in this case the order ID. So we use the sum if, and the if has three things that is asking us. The first is the range, the second is the criteria, the third is the sum range. So now this is the explanation. I have given that before and I'll say that again. The first is saying the range. So the range is, now pay attention, the range is where your criteria is also contained in. You know, the first is the range, then your criteria, and then the sum range. So for this, let me start from criteria. Criteria, just like lookup value, is what you have that you want to use in searching for. In this case, you want to use to fetch the sum. That is when this criteria is met, that is when order ID is equal to the order ID on this sheet 1 is equal to the order ID on the raw data, sum all the sales column against it. So now it's asking us for range. So the range, the appropriate range to select, this is the sheet we want to populate. So the range we want to select is the range from your raw data. So go to your raw data or where your data is, and then go to the what's it called, the order ID column, and select it as the range. So I select column B and I separate with a comma, and now it's asking me for my criteria. So what are you using to search for it? What is your reference? I say this particular order ID, that this is my criteria. That is, anytime the range that I've selected, any in that range, whenever you see this particular order ID, please give me the sum of. Now the last question is now, what range should I sum for you whenever that criteria is met? And I said, please sum this column for me, which is the sales column, and I hit enter. So this will do for me that without me having to do it by myself. All right. So it will do for me this, and go verify this. You will see that the sum of sales against this particular order ID is 79. I mean 979.9455. So, and we can quickly verify that. Just copy this and then go to the raw data, then do in the order ID. So just filter by that particular order ID, and then say okay. Okay, I think a filter is on. Where is my Excel loading? All right. So by the time we come here and we just do a sum here, so we can. My Excel is slow. What is that? What's happening? So let me increase the decimal place. All right. So we have 4 decimal places on that other sheet. So you see it is 979 point 9455, and that's the same thing we have here. All right. So that's how you can quickly populate it. And your boss will think it's something that will take a whole lot. He thinks you will just be filtering and be summing and be taking the sum over, but you say, oh, we know how better to do it. All right. Something is happening. What am I doing that my Excel is loading? All right. So that is that about it. And I said the same thing works for average. Average if also have the same argument. And in a case where you have more than one condition that you want to meet, or you want to consider several things. Now, okay, so you might want to consider that, okay, out of this, and let's get into this and just quickly look at the segments. Let me see, where is the segment? Here's the segment. Okay, this is the segment. All right. So how many segments do we have? We have 3 segments. So we can quickly do something on that. We have consumer, we have corporate, we have home office. All right. So let's quickly do something with that. So now you want to just get the sales in each of these segments. Now, this is some of sales that we've gotten. So we want to get the sales in, okay. I don't have even to decide this. Let me just say, okay, let me just say this. All right. So that there are 2 ways you can achieve what I want to do, but I will achieve it this way. So consumer, um, corporate, home office. All right, home office. So now, so you want to get the sum of sales of this particular customer ID in each of these segments. So you want to now use sum if. So there is some if, there is some ifs. So the ifs with a an x. So you use this sum if. So now this one is starting from the range you want to sum. So pay attention to what Excel is asking. Excel is always very good at asking questions. So once you pay attention, just provide it what it's asking, and then you say, well, sum this for me. It's asking you what is the criteria one range. So the criteria one range is okay. So what is the range that you want to get the first criteria from? All right. So you now said my first criteria is this. Okay. Where is this consumer? All right. Okay, segment of what I use. Okay, this is the criteria one range. So it's now asking us what's the criteria. So we now come here and we say this is the criteria, and then we lock it to it so that it doesn't leave. So all right, is somebody going to ask question by me locking something to that particular selection? So the same thing it will ask us for the second, or maybe you got it right. So the second criteria is this second criteria range is still the segment, and then um, the criteria two is now this, and then I lock it with F4 because I just want it to be referencing that top one. And the third criteria, I say the same segment column, and then my criteria is now this home office, which I will lock with F4. So, and I will hit enter because that's what that I want. All right. So now, so I still want it to be X. Yeah. So this, let me lock all the reference column. So that I can just copy and paste without having to bother about it. Okay. Mhm. So what hold up was okay. This is why I'm having issues. Sorry. My selection is getting out the way. I was sure I wonder why is my Excel slow. Um, I should just have it up to this point. All right, let me take it out. I don't know why it is still referencing this. So it is populating places that should not be populated. All right, very fast, quickly. Um, just copy and then paste without any fill. Okay, I think the fill is what is getting it to go there. Okay, so I should not have anything all the way again. All right, better now. Okay, so I was wondering. So, um, so we want to do the multiple conditions and then says um, consumer, home office, corporate. Home office, and then corporate. So now you want to use these three criteria to look for. Sorry, let me even check. Are we following? All right. So now, so we want to use this condition and say, if this is met, then produce this. Okay. So now, and that's where we're using, because I couldn't even get into the law tonight. I was just concerned when I heard that. So the criteria one, so criteria range one, okay. Criteria range one is segment. So the segment, all right, and the criteria one, and the criteria one is this. So is this, criteria range two, and the criteria is this. This, and the criteria range is this. All right. So why do I have zero hole? No. Okay, so let me quickly bring this up. I think my reference point will change. And let me see. So did I not write it as it was written in the header? Yes, there's no space. All right. So. All right. So let me do this then. So let's do this.
Your
Oh,
reference
okay,
in your
okay,
code.
okay. Yeah, sorry. Thank you. Thank you for spotting that consumer. All right. So there should be, yeah, even with the removal of. So all right. So let me just put this here and see. because I do know that there are consumers there that should have put. This is my sum range, my criteria 1, my criteria 2, my criteria 3. So let me apply the same here and then change all the H and S. So okay. So I think I'm missing something up, and that will be the yes. This is not included, but it should pull even with this. Yeah, there are no lines for it, and so let me make this the first criteria. So I think that is what was missing. So the first criteria range, yeah, first criteria range is this, and first criteria is this, and then this will be the second, and this is the second criteria range, and this is the second criteria. So I think something is being mixed up here, and at the moment, I don't know if my Excel is dissociating itself from me. Sorry, um, don't mind me. I combine all the what's it called in one, all the conditions in one. That should not have been done. Okay, so I don't mind me. I think I was just rushing things and get messed. All right. So all the conditions were combined in one was what was happening. So it is one for each. So why I'm using some ifs is because I want to use the order ID and the segments. So, but each condition should be for each of the stuff. So now this particular row, since this is designated consumer row, so I'm saying if this is the order ID and the sales is consumer, So yeah. So I have all the what's it called? No, that's what is causing. Don't mind me. The condition I should use in other table I'm using in one, in just one. So let me. This is just for consumer. Thought my Excel has left me. So it didn't leave me. I was one that is leaving it and messing it. Okay, so this is the first one. So if it is consumer and it has this other ID, so the second criteria would be it has this other ID. So give me it. So hope I didn't have much argument. Sum this if it is consumer. Sum this if it is consumer, and then give me that. Okay. So we have something. So I also want to have something here so that we can see. I don't know. I removed it before. So the same issue I was facing before is back. I press something again. Sum if the range is this. Sorry, very fast. And then the criteria is this, and then this is the sum range. Um, okay, so I want to have this here. So this is the sum of sales, so that we can use it to check what we have done. So if it is correct. So, and also what we did before, we can still retain it. It was correct. What got it to be in that state is this. All right, so can have it across. Okay, so this is for home office. Okay, this is home office, home office, home office. So I can actually use anyone since I'll be using this reference now, and then I have this locked, and then I'll just do this. So the two conditions I'm providing in the two is that if it belongs to this segment and it is also it has this other ID, that is for other ID, for this other ID that belongs to this segment. So give me what their contribution is across each of the segments. Okay, so and this as well. So let me just quickly take this and then we'll wrap it up. Okay, is that not query I'm receiving already? All right. So if it is this, I lock it already, and then um, quickly do this. Okay, we're right. Okay. All right, perfect. So if you take the sum of all of this, we should have this. So we can then say this is this, and then we have the truth. So basically, this is just using two conditions to we're getting some using two conditions. We're using the segment they belong to, and we're also using the what's it called, the other ID, that is the cards they belong to. I think so. You can actually use even more than two conditions. We just use two conditions. What happened initially? Sometimes the mind is faster than what is to be done. So have the condition that pertain to each of these. And did anybody say that in the chart? Yeah. All right. So since I am referencing this name, I want to use this name, and that was why I was careful in typing this name the other time, so that I type it as it is. And by the time uh, we need to teach a lot of things here, so let us take it from there next week. Yeah, but locking
All
this
right.
cell is actually, yeah, locking this cell. So you could see this dollar sign
Yes.
um capping the column, that is C, a dollar sign before C
The
and a
C
dollar
and
sign
one.
after C.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one now stands in. So I'm actually locking that particular item so that by the time, this is how Excel work. Let me remove this dollar sign. So maybe you will understand. Okay, before I remove the dollar sign, look at something. Look at something here. So pay attention. I'm selecting C2. So you will see that this C1 is not becoming C2 or C3 or C4 or C5, right? So,
Yes.
but
Yes.
how Excel work without this particular dollar sign, it should be relational. So as I am dragging across, it should this should be C1 and this should be C2, this should be C3, and you see it's changing. But I
Yeah.
said I don't want to change because what I want, the content I want, which is actually consumer. And that was why when I was facing an issue the other time, I changed this instead of referencing this. I thought that was what was causing the problem. I said, let me just type out consumer myself. So it works this way. You can type out consumer and the formula will work. Okay, so you can type out consumer and the formula will work. It worked perfectly. But because I don't want to type out consumer, I said, so since my header is consumer, let it be picking this consumer. So why I'm locking it to this is instead of having consumer in the function that I'm declaring, I said let it just have a cell that already have that name instead of me typing consumer. So I remove consumer and I reference that cell and I said, it is consumer it is across board. So it is the same thing I want to achieve by saying it should remain consumer across board. And this C1 is where consumer is. And by the time I put my cursor
Okay.
between
So
C1
instead of typing
and
consumer, you just wrote that. Then you reference the cell and logged it. But
yes,
how
and
did
I
you
log
lock
the
it? Is
cell
the
so that
question. How did you do the
okay, the
locking? Because we
question
can't even see it on the screen.
so you have to understand why it is being locked, which you have now
Yes, I
understood. So
understand
to
it
lock
now.
it, yeah, perfect. To lock it, just put your cursor on that particular cell that you have selected. See my cursor is between C and
Yes.
F4 on your, just press F4 on your, and if you don't
F4.
want to press F4, yes. If you don't want to press F4, just put a dollar sign before C and a dollar sign after C. And there are
Okay.
several ways of locking, but in this case, this is how you lock it. There are times that you just lock the column, there are times that you just lock the row. So, but now we're
You're
locking
locking a
this
cell.
to this particular cell. Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So by the time we're locking it to that cell and then we copy it across and give us of this. So the same thing we do for all of this, the same thing we do for this.